I'm so excited to share with you today, to be with you today, wherever you are tuning in from. Whether you're in your office, in your home office like me, or you're riding along in your car, you're on your phone checking this out in between calls, or maybe you're listening to this on the replay and it's evening time and you're settling down for the evening with your family, or maybe you're outside by the pool. I mean, I'm in Florida. It's so hot. Brighton actually just asked me if I had time to go in the pool with her today. So hopefully we will do some diving into the pool this evening. I have another call at 3:30. So I'm really excited to share this conversation and have this conversation with you. So feel free, like this is a kind of conversation where I really want to invite you to comment, ask questions, share your own stories about this. Private message me. I'm happy to continue to talk about this. And, this is a conversation that as entrepreneurs, especially in this online expert coaching, whatever you want to call it these days, category, that we need to be having a whole lot more often. I am someone who's part of my journey, it's part of the story. It is so easy to get sucked into this idea and this perception that you should be further along than you are. And financially, I'll get to that in a minute. You should be further along than you are. And if you're not, you have a mindset problem. If you're not, you just don't believe in yourself. If you're not, you're just not committed enough. If you're not, there's just so many things you don't get. And, we see a lot of posts and stories and, like marketing and sales posts, emails, whatever. And, so much of what we're seeing is on the other. It's like once somebody reached this, whatever level of success they're talking about, they reached. But in the back of your mind, okay, well, I mean, maybe you don't know, but I think deep down you do know. But I think we all kind of then start questioning ourselves. And it's like, well, I don't see her talking about all the struggles she went through, the speed bumps she bumped into along the way, the setbacks that she had, the failures that she went through. I haven't seen her talking about that, but I'm over here struggling. And I'm over here wondering when I'm going to get there. And I'm over here wondering why it's taking me so long to get there. I'm over here wondering, well, is there something wrong with me because of what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through, what's working, what's not working for me? Does that mean I'm not valuable enough? I'm not enough. I'm not worthy enough. I don't know enough. Does it mean I can't do this? And I think I can only speak for myself. So I'll just be really honest. Of course, that's why I'm here sharing this. That type of share has really messed with my own thoughts. And for years, like this is not like something new or recent, but it's been for a really long time. And all of that really came to a head for me about a year ago, maybe even a year and a half ago. So I want to take you back in time just a little bit, because now that I'm on this other side of things, we always hear from people like, now that I'm on the other side of it, like this is how amazing it is. But, I went through this struggle. You didn't get to see all of that, but like, this is how awesome it is. And this is what I figured out. And, ta-da. So I don't want to be the ta-da for you today. I want to be like the reality for you today. And, I think we're all like, all of us in this particular group, for the most part, we've all been at this business building thing for quite some time. Whether it's a few years or it's a decade or it's multiple decades. And so I don't believe that it's news to anybody listening to this right now that So many parts and pieces of building a business are the complete opposite of being glamorous. There are setbacks and speed bumps and hurdles and a lot of things that do not work. A lot of things that do not work. More things are not working than are working. Um, I would be lying if I said that I have not like really, I wouldn't say struggle. I don't think struggle is the right word for me, but really let my mind get the best of me in different moments, like different periods of time throughout growth. Whether that's comparison or um, wondering why I'm not further along, wondering if I really have what it takes, um, thinking that this is a really big one for me, and then I'll take you back in time in a minute. One of the really big ones for me has been, I'm sharing, like, we're seeing all these people like post, and so many of the whatever, I don't know, coaches, mentors, leaders, whatever, selling programs out there, whether it's in the business category or the mindset category. It's really like, but you see it in both of those. And it's like all about, I'm going to help you make this certain amount of money. And for me, for a really long time, so I would say since probably 2017, so I came back into my business in 2017. What I didn't realize until I paused long enough to realize this is that I was attaching so much of my value to getting to a certain annual financial milestone. And in my mind, I was like, well, if I don't reach it and I can't say that I've reached this particular financial milestone, then people are not going to want to work with me. The level of business owner that I actually work with best is not going to work with me. I even remember telling some of my own coaches, well, this group of people who I'm actually best equipped to serve, they're not going to choose to work with me because I haven't hit this particular year financial milestone. They're all hiring all these other coaches who are out there saying that they hit it. And so I realized so much of my value was attached to a timeline of hitting this, in my mind, this particular financial milestone in just like one calendar year. And for me, that's $1 million. It was $1 million. And being able to say, I hit seven figures in 1 year from like a calendar year. So let's be really clear about what that means. There's a lot of people out there saying they make millions of dollars, but they made $1 million over like a 5-year period of time or a 3-year period of time. Or you don't know if it's like cash they collected in a year or revenue that they did in a year. So mine was about cash collected in a calendar year, $1 million. And so this is something that I've been working towards for the last 6 years. So, well, 5.5. So since I came back in my business in 2017. Now in 2017, that was not like the big goal to hit that, but I really did think I was going to hit it in 2018. And my path has not looked like that. Came out of the gate, was going like hard and fast in 2017. It was my first year back in my business and did do right around $500,000. And so in your mind, you think, okay, well, I did $500,000. Like I can easily do $1 million next year. And then when you don't hit it, you start questioning yourself. And that's where it really started for me in 2018. I really started questioning myself in 2018 because I didn't hit the goal. And I actually didn't do that much better financially if we're just looking at a financial upward trend and progression that is, significant and measurable. That didn't happen for me in 2018. It didn't happen for me in 2019. We did have one of our best years we've ever had in 2020. 2020 was a phenomenal year for us. And so then you think you're going to do it in 2021. And then 2021 was literally 2 steps back before you're going to take a step forward. And that was a reality check for me, because what it showed me again is that so much of my value and my worth was attached to my ability to hit a certain financial milestone in a particular timeline. And so what that like created inside of me was like doubt and worry and fear and questioning my own worth and deservability as just a person, number one. And then it goes to, well, if I can't go out there and like market myself and say this particular thing about myself, then I don't know what I'm doing. Then people aren't going to see me as the go-to person for them. People are going to think I can't help them reach their financial goal, like just like all of that. So that was like the big, huge awareness for me. And so I do want to take it back for just a second. So before, okay, so I know some of you already know the story, but I don't really have like a lot of notes, so I'm kind of going to probably be all over the place. We'll just see how it goes. So when I had my first coaching business, I didn't know anything about the coaching industry. I had a coaching certification, but it was through like an ICF certified accredited program. And it's someone who has been like part of the ICF like her entire career. So literally the complete opposite of anything any of us have experienced in this like online coaching lifestyle based way of marketing, like polar opposite. But that's what I started with. And what I'm like super good at is building businesses and the execution behind the scenes, the operations, the team, the leadership, the communication. Building out programs, but from a design and delivery perspective, client retention, all of those things. And so in my first coaching business, I grew the whole thing networking, in-person networking and in-person speaking. So I didn't have a single client that was building a business online. Every single client I worked with had a brick and mortar business, I think. The only ones I was working with that didn't have like brick and mortar, it was people in network marketing. I had network marketing clients. I had a financial advisor as a client, a chiropractor who had her own practice, a dog groomer with a building, like in a brick building. I worked with a professor at UNC Chapel Hill who was developing something around alcohol fetal syndrome. Like you name it, I was working with it. And I was helping them, build a business that functioned like a business, not something that was just based on, I have this great lifestyle and I figured out how to come do something, so come and follow me and I'm going to show you how to have my great lifestyle too. Like, I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't even know that existed in 2011, 12. I didn't know that existed until 2013. And so in 2013, that's when I first was introduced to things like, I had never heard of the words wealth consciousness before 2013. Childhood trauma, I'd never heard that language. I had never heard anybody talk about like, figure out what your desires are, and then this whole business that you're building, it's like, you're just supposed to be operating based on your desires. Like, I had never heard of any of that stuff before. They certainly don't talk to you about that when you get a business degree, which I have. And so that was all like really new to me. And this whole like build a brand based on your lifestyle was so foreign, like so new. And so I think you all know my story around like working behind the scenes for a coaching company that very much was lifestyle. The brand was lifestyle driven. Like that's the brand. And so I do want to pause here and say that I think all of that stuff is great. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing bad about it. And if that's what like floats your boat, awesome. But I'll just show you, I think the only thing that looks partially lifestyle about me, because people tell me this, but I don't really get it. I mean, it's my real hair. No extensions. I really do like to have nice hair. So I do like spend money on getting my hair done, and I like to have nice hair. But like, look at these nails. I think I could count on one hand how many times I've had my nails done. I have a pretty limited supply in my closet of anything. I carry one purse that I've carried for 7 years. It's a nice bag, it's a designer bag. 7 years, one. Um, I don't have like a bajillion outfits. I have a handful of pair of shoes. I do like Air Jordans. I got my first pair yesterday. I'm excited for that. I have more workout clothes because that's important to me than like anything else. So when I left the company that I worked for, and then I had been in this like coachy world for 4 years. That's like all I saw, all I heard. I literally didn't even have my own social media presence. Come back in, and then naturally, after like all those years of building all these relationships, and then seeing how 1,000 plus people are growing their business, is like, oh, okay. I guess that's how I have to be, and those are the things that I have to do, and those are the things that I have to say that I'm selling so that I will be attractive to the marketplace out there. And I remember sitting in a mastermind retreat with like, I don't know, there may be 10 of us there. And this was in early 2017. I was working with the coach at the time that I was working with. And I remember we were at that retreat, and I had so much conviction behind me around, I want to be a truth teller in an industry that literally exists behind a veil. Like, it's like nothing about it is even like in any kind of reality at all. It's just like, and I don't mean like, I'm not saying like I'm against believe in possibilities. That's not what I mean. But it's like, there's no reality about what it really means to build a actual business, which is not just seeing how much money I can make and selling things every month just to see how much, like, just to keep making more money. Like, that's only one small slice of what a business really is. And then there's like all this other stuff that is building a real business. And what really makes a business valuable, and building a business from this perspective of, if I were going to walk away from this business one day and be able to sell it for tens of millions of dollars, or a few $1,000,000, and see it as almost like this investment, like, that's a completely different way of running a business. And then so much of what we're hearing and what I was also seeing is like, these people are just being sold like a bill of goods. Like, just believe in yourself. Sell things based on your experience and your life experience, and sell it for a really large amount of money, and showcase the type of life that you live, and you're gonna make all this money. And so then people were getting into programs and then realizing there's so much more to it than that. It's just not that. It's not always picture perfect like that. And so when I came back into my own business, I was like, I want to be the truth teller of the industry. And so I'll be super honest. I've shared this before. I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, or if I've shared this with you, but when it came back into my business, I was really, my expertise is in business and building things and execution, and what's required to have a sustainable business on the back end. And I was constantly being guided by coaches and mentors and whoever, that if I wasn't promising making a certain amount of money, then I was not going to be able to sell to the degree that I wanted to. And I've actually never had anybody that I am working with tell me otherwise. It's always been, well, you have to promise a certain amount of money. So how much money are you going to promise that you can help people make? And in order for people to believe you, you also need to be able to talk about how much money you make, because everybody wants to see that. Because everybody in this industry is told that you should not work with anybody who hasn't created the results. And what they mean by that is the amount of money. You should not work with anybody who has not created the amount of money that you want to create. Nobody really says that in other industries. I mean, maybe you'll hear that a little bit, but one of the industries that I study a lot is sports and athletics. And you will almost never see an Olympic coach, an elite level coach, a professional sport coach who even comes close to of ever achieving the result that their players are currently at, because that's not what they actually need from them. They don't, LeBron James doesn't need anybody to help him shoot a basketball any better. LeBron James does not need a coach to show him how to score more forward, right? Like, he doesn't need someone to show him how to score more points. Okay? So I always found that to be really interesting in this industry. So again, I really got sucked into this and guided and told, and then that's all you see on social media are all these posts about how much money I'm making and yada. And so every single time I would talk about that in my own content, I literally wanted to like curl up in a ball. And I was like, this is so silly. Like, this is silly. And I don't mean like when I see it from other people, it's silly. I felt silly. I felt out of integrity. I felt like this is not me. Like, this is off. But then you're questioning yourself because that's what your coaches are telling you. And supposedly they know because they're so much further ahead than you. And then that's what you're seeing. That's the example that you have. Like, all the examples out there are that. And so let's get to the setback. So then, we were doing like 6-figure launches years ago. We were doing 6-figure launches, and I loved it. I was enjoying everything I was doing, and I was enjoying supporting people and teaching people and all that jazz. And then slowly, like over time, it was like our launches kept underperforming. So I wasn't reaching goals. And then slowly, like over time, when I wasn't reaching my enrollment goal, and I typically have an enrollment goal, not a financial goal, that just works better for me. And I wasn't hitting it. And then I started having more sales conversations. And I was like, I've got too many people who are in my programs that are ideal, but they're not fully qualified, just based on what I was seeing as people were going through the program. And I was like, I've really got to tighten up the qualifications, but I've got to tighten up who I'm letting into my programs. And so I started telling a lot of people no. Like, I wasn't even accepting them into my program. And so when you start telling a lot of people no, then you don't hit your numbers, because I was telling like 50% of the people I was having calls with no. Like, it's not a good fit. You're not where your business is not where it needs to be in order for you to get the goal that you say you want in my particular program. And so then that went on for like a year. That was like a year. So this was like a while ago. And then just like slowly but surely, it starts to become like demoralizing. And then you really start sinking into this, do I know what I'm doing? Can I do this? Can I keep up with this? Maybe the first couple of years were just like luck. Maybe I'm a one-hit wonder. Just like all these things. And then that's where I was. And so then there's that. And then the other thing that I was noticing about myself is that I wasn't having any fun. I was not having fun anywhere in my life. I wasn't having girlfriend friendships that were fun. I wasn't having fun in my house. I wasn't having fun in my relationship with my husband. I wasn't having fun in my mother-daughter relationship with Brighton. I wasn't having fun in my own like physical body. And I wouldn't say that I like let my health go, but I think I really like lost who I had always been and who I knew I was. Health, fitness, working out, sports has always been like being in like extremely excellent physical shape and condition has just always been a part of my life. And I've always been super disciplined with that. And I just sort of like let it go. And I remember even talking to people like over the years where I was like, yeah, I'm always my most confident when I'm like really physically active and physically fit. And I just sort of like let that go by the wayside. And we started having this joke in my house with me, Sean, and Brayton. And it was like, which parent is the fun parent? Which one's the adventurous one? Or, how would you describe mommy? How would you describe daddy? And Brett would always say, like, well, mommy's like a little quieter and she doesn't really like laugh all the time or smile. And then when I do, it's like this shocking thing. And so that went on for a pretty long time. I mean, we're talking like a few years. And so, and this is all within like the last 5.5 years. And I just got to a point where it's like, I've really let this business, but not the business. It's not the business that did it. It was this attachment that I had to I was attaching my value and my worth to reaching a particular financial milestone on a particular timeline that I created. And so that drove everything. And it wasn't driving me to overwork. I've actually never really worked more than about 35 hours a week. So it wasn't like this extreme burnout and exhaustion. It was taking up emotional, psychological, and spiritual bandwidth, but it was sucking all of it. Like all of it was being sucked up into that. And I didn't realize it. And when I finally realized it, I was like, I gotta get my life back. I gotta get my joy back. I've got to get my happiness back. I've got to get back to what I know I'm being called to do, the way in which I'm being called to serve, the message I'm being given to deliver, because it ain't what I see out there. And the way that I want to portray myself, the way that I just like am all the time. I mean, the way I am, it's so funny. We've had clients in our home like quite a bit. We do a lot of retreats and people are always so shocked. They're like, you're the same here as like everywhere else. You're the same in your personal life than in your business. And I'm like, why would I be any different? Like, why would I try to put on a show out here to go like to be something different at home? And I think a lot of people are that way. And I will say that from experience and seeing it firsthand, that a lot of how coaches, especially that drive a certain like lifestyle as their marketing thing, the way that they are out here it's different behind the scenes. In fact, they're way more fun to be around behind the scenes. And so that is something that just like really ate away at me, and it gnawed away at me, because I was like, I'm not being in integrity. Like I'm not being in integrity to myself in all these other categories of life. And so I took a pause. And to be quite frank, I didn't really build anything for a year. I mean, I really hit the pause button for a year. And you may be thinking, it's like, well, you were still posting. I've still seen you around for a year. You still have had clients for a year, and all that's true. Like, yes, all that's true. We have had programs. I've worked with people one-on-one. But I got to a point where it's like, I'm no longer attaching my value and my worth to a timeline that me or anybody else has created for me, or a financial number. I've got to go back and rediscover what's important to me, what I value, what I don't value, and go back to doing the things I want to do in the way that I want to do it, that's in integrity for me. And literally to start over the way in which I was leading my entire business and my entire life. So not starting over like you're starting everything over from scratch. So I didn't get a divorce. I didn't kick my kid out. I didn't burn my business down. That's not what I mean by that. So when we say start over, it's sort of like rediscovering and getting clearer. Like that's what it really was for me. And I didn't have a timeline for that. I didn't say like I'm going to give you 90 days to figure this out, or I'm going to give you a month to figure this out, or I'm going to give you a year to figure this out. And for me, it was about a year. I didn't know how long that was going to take, but I just knew that I would be properly guided, and I was. But I couldn't hear that guidance until I pressed the pause button on the striving for a goal on a particular timeline. And so I really focused on my family. I focused on my relationships. I focused on my health. And I focused on my relationship with myself. So no, I was not doing bubble baths and bath salts and massages and all those things. And you're into those things are great. But I got my body back. I got my booty. I was already in the gym, but I started doing very demanding, challenging workouts. I got back on the tennis court. I got back into doing family walks every single day. I got back into movie nights. I got back into hanging out with Brighton in the middle of the day. I got back into reading my Bible. I got back into morning devotionals. I got back into the way in which I know I'm meant to be helping and serving people, and not operating from this place of, well, I'm gonna offer and say and be what I think people want. Now, everything that I did the first like 4.5 years, what I'm sharing today, I'm not taking away from anything that I did or anything that I provided people or anybody that I worked with, because it meant everything to me at that time. But so much of it was difficult on me, because I knew even though people were coming to me for a certain something, and that's what they wanted from me, and that's what they were telling me they wanted, and they were telling me certain things about myself that they were attracted to, I knew deep down that there were parts of it that were off. And I knew deep down that I was almost like kind of morphing myself into fitting into that, versus following the path and whatever timeline that path was going to be on that I knew I was meant to be on. And there was like this internal battle inside. And then I had a really hard time. I was having a really hard time making decisions, like really hard time making any decisions. And I was like not making decisions unless I had like other people who I could talk it all through to even make those decisions, whether it was Sean or a team member or something like that. And so that was really like disconcerting as well. And so through the process of getting my health back, really paying attention to my family, being present in every single moment, creating, we built a consulting arm to our business. I love consulting. So we're working with businesses that are closer to 1 million and 1 million plus a year with our consulting, because they already have teams. They already have lead gen and marketing and sales working for them. They either have full-time team that's doing it, or they have an agency that's doing that for them. So there's no shortage of, there's no desperation financially. There's no shortage of, a lead pipeline and sales. But that is just for consulting, where I go in and we're consulting on client retention, specifically with their group coaching programs. Still have our mastermind, working with some people privately. I really got back into working with people privately because I really, really love that. I love the private work. And then I've got a new thing that's going to be coming out. I won't share any details now, but I'm going to be partnering with another business owner and friend on a group coaching program where we're supporting people with their groups. But what I'm going to be focusing on is not the marketing and sales. The partner's going to be focusing on that. I'm going to be focusing on client retention, delivery, curriculum, client satisfaction, client experience, the design and delivery of the program, and the operations around the program, and any team that you're bringing in to start training them on how to help with delivery of the group. So it really gives us both the best of both worlds. So, the setback, which was literally, I never felt like everything was crumbling. I never felt like that ever. But I really did sort of like shut down the old way of running my business and the old way of marketing and the old way of my content and the messaging and who I like really, really enjoy serving. And this wasn't something that a coach could just come in and tell me what my message should be, because that's what I had done for the last 5 years. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have coaches, obviously, to support us in those things, but I couldn't even grasp what was true for me because I had let myself go. Like I had just lost myself in all the doing and all the stuff. And so the year about giving my life back was I had to let go of reaching these big money goals. I had to let go of like launching all the time. I had to let go of filling my programs up with all these people. I had to let go of being all over the freaking place. I had to let go of doing Facebook Lives every single week. I mean, it's pretty clear that for a year, I didn't do Facebook Lives every single week. I let go of my Facebook group that literally funded my entire business for 4.5 years. 5 years, actually, because I let it go in December. I had to let so many things go. And I knew I had to do that because the only way I was going to step into whatever the next thing was that I knew was always there, but I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't see it. I couldn't find it. I couldn't let it in, or I couldn't let it out. I couldn't let it come through me because of all this other stuff. And for a lot of people, that is so scary to do. It's scary because you think, well, if I do this, everybody's going to find out. This is what you say in your head. Everybody's going to find out I don't really know what I'm doing, that I'm not really that successful. So all my clients are going to want to leave. They're going to go find somebody else to work with. Nobody's going to pay attention to anything that I say. And basically everything that I just built was for nothing and I have nothing to show for it. And that's literally what you think is going to happen. And it's so far from it. It's so far from it. So my pause and my setback is what really helped me rediscover my passion. It's what really helped me rediscover fun. It's what helped me rediscover what it really means to be present. What it really means to be present. Because I used my business and I used striving in my business to not be present. I was not being present in anything I was doing, specifically in my personal life, because my mind was always in the business, always thinking about it. And so I knew I had to get into the practice of being present, in the practice of being in the moment, in the practice of releasing any type of timeline. And so a lot of my days were with Sean. A lot of my days were walking the dog. A lot of my days were spending more time with Brighton. Again, I wasn't like not working in my business. I was still doing a lot of things, still have a business. But I started doing things very differently. I started putting my health and fitness, eating first. I've shared this on my podcast, but I found out I had a thyroid issue, which was the whole reason why physically I was experiencing a lot of the things in my body, low in testosterone, which is a hormone. You put those two things together and it does not make for a really fun time. And so once I figured that out, then I was taking care of my body and my health and well-being in the right way for me once I had that information. I thought I was going crazy before I knew that. I was sleeping 10 hours a day. I could barely get out of bed in the morning. And when you combine like feeling like crap with everything else I just shared about the business stuff, like it was such an unhealthy combination. It was horrible. And so when I figured that out, I knew how to get back into the health and the fitness. And so that became the number one thing for me. My relationship with my family became very, very important to me. My relationship with God became much more important to me. It became a top priority for me. And then all of that is what has really led me to making the decisions that I'm making in this particular season of my life and of my business. And so, happiness is back, joy is back. Ultimately, I would say the inner peace. So it no longer, again, I'm not attached to my value or my worth or my inner peace being connected to how well my business is performing or how fast my business is performing, how quickly I'm hitting certain goals. If I am even hitting certain goals, whether it's enrollment or financial or other. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean I don't still have goals. It doesn't mean that I don't still, I'm not, it doesn't mean I'm not going for certain things. All of that is still there. It's just being done in an extremely different way than it was before. So, I just think it's so important that I know for me, it's just no longer okay to talk about this is where I got. So let me come and show you how to get there too. And it's so easy. If you just believe in it and you just follow what I say, you're going to get there. And I think because that was so much of the example that I had been inundated with and indoctrinated with for like 9 years, really, that I was missing the truth. And I was sort of like, it just felt super out of integrity for me because I'm like, wait a minute, there's no way anybody in business is not experiencing some of the stuff I'm experiencing that's rocky and that's, you feel like you're on the struggle bus or things that are like not working. And then when I really, really started seeing it, that was very bothersome for me personally was when clients would come and show up and they would just be in arms about not reaching a certain goal. Or if they were on like day 3 of an open cart in a launch, it was like devastation if they hadn't had a certain number of people buy their program by that time. And then it was like all this on me, whether it was me putting on myself or them approaching it from this way, like I as their coach needed to be the one that had the answers to fix it. And that really, like, I struggled tremendously with that. And it's like, okay, well, why do people feel that way? And I think that so much of it is shifting your mentality from everything is happening in the short term to, and it's like this, just like push and attachment to, if I'm not hitting this particular goal in this moment that I said I was going to hit it, everything about me is like wrong and bad and disgusting and not worthy and I'm not good enough. And when you shift your mindset and your mentality to, I am building something that is going to be built to last, that stuff doesn't rock you to your core. It doesn't make you question your own value as a human being. It doesn't make you question your own worth. Like, you are just as worthy and valuable with or without reaching a certain business goal, financial goal, program enrollment goal, team goal, like whatever your goal is. And what I was doing and what so many people are doing is I was literally discounting the 20 years of previous experience in everything, education, credentials, experience, careers, everything I built for other people, for myself, and education, and this other coach, like everything. It was like it didn't even exist. Like it didn't even matter. And the only thing that matters was like my ability to say to whomever out there that I was able to reach this goal in this timeline. And so that was so bothersome for me for so many years as a coach. When people are like coming to coaching sessions and calls and it's just like this, the world is literally ended because I did not hit my goal in the timeline, but it was like all the time. It was like every goal and it was like all the time. And that isn't fun. Like, that's just not enjoyable for anybody involved. And so I've really shifted my perspective. I've gotten back to what I've always believed. And nothing that I'm sharing are things that are like, oh, these are new beliefs. It was, I strayed away from what I believed the whole time. I strayed away from what I believed the whole time. I strayed away from who I knew myself to be the whole time. And I strayed away from it because I let myself believe that the way someone else was presenting it and all the examples that I saw, that they were right and I was wrong. And that's where my inner peace was dismantled completely. The fun factor, my passion, everything just became so fragmented and so dismantled in these pieces. So I really had to go put the pieces back together. And so I've gone, it's really about going back to this, Sean and I have these conversations all the time. It's like we're very clear on what we're building 10 years from now. We're very clear on that. Now, do we have the details necessarily? Like, we don't have all the details. We don't know how to, but every day and every moment and the decisions that we're making, what happens today, like what's happening today. I'm not worried about what's happening tomorrow or next week or next month or by the end of this year. What's happening today is a building. It's not even a building block. It's a piece to the puzzle. But we know where we're going 10 years from now. We know where we're going 20 years from now. And every day we are moving in that direction. Whether it happens in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, it doesn't matter. But we're so focused on building a family, having health, our health life, our mental life, our work life, our relationships. It's the name of my podcast. I launched a podcast in October called Built to Last. And it's about building relationships and families and marriages and businesses and teams and relationships and client relationships that are built to last. And that is a completely different approach than so much of what is being spewed at all of us on a daily basis. So if you resonate with anything that I say, let me know. Let me know if you resonate with it. Have you gone through something similar? Are you going through it right now? What questions do you have? Or just like, thank you for sharing this. I'm going through it too. Because our setbacks typically are a set up for whatever is meant to come down the pipeline or on our pathway next. And so much of what feels and looks like a setback, at the time it really did feel like, God, this is such a freaking big setback, because I feel like I'm having to start all over again. And for a long time I did really see it as a setback. Now, a business coach, a marketer, a salesperson might tell you like, wow, that's a really big setback. But it actually was the greatest set up of my life. And I couldn't imagine now, being on the other side of it, where I would be today if I was still the person who was striving and connecting and attaching her value and her worth to reaching a financial goal on a particular timeline that I had manufactured in my head that came from who knows where. Couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine the moments I would have lost with friends and family and clients and colleagues, and just enjoying living and enjoying building something really, really amazing in the business world for people. So whatever your setback is, all you have to do is change your perspective and see it as a form of protection, re-guiding you and really setting you up to return back to who you've always known yourself to be, and letting yourself be that version of you.